That's right. You're listening to Relics Radio. Hey, everyone. Ken here from Adventures in Dirt. Good to be with you again on another Thursday night. Got my co-host with me, Tony. How are you, buddy?
I'm blessed. It's Thursday, and we're back live again.
Yeah. We missed last week, it's always good to be back with everyone live. For sure. How's the week been? We got a chance to get out a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, we got back out to that new permission that we have that we're going to pound this year, and I did all right. I found some history that we were looking for, at least at the time. Yeah,
you won the day, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, but
well, when I say you won the day, I mean you got closer to finding the spot,
right,
than the rest of us did. So to explain the situation, we have this massive area to scour, to look for, and we're trying to find a camp. We're trying to find a military camp that's been written about. We know it was there. We know some of the companies that were there. There's been a little bit of writing about it, but not a lot. And we know why they were there. We just don't know where in relationship to the stage stop. Right.
Well, there's quite a bit out there too. There's a bunch of different things that were out in that same area. So there's a couple different sites that we're actually looking for.
Right.
So, but I find a couple different things, and there was period time to what we're looking for. 1860s, 1870s.
Yep.
So, but it was a good day. Beautiful outside. Got some great drone footage of the Colorado blue skies. Right.
Yeah, man.
That was a beautiful day.
It's been a while since I wore short sleeve shirts out metal detecting.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It was wonderful. It was like 60 degrees. Perfect.
It was gorgeous.
Weather.
Gorgeous for sure.
This first time we've talked about that, because usually we've been like, we're snowed in, we're still frozen, the ground's frozen.
That's right.
We had to go to England to be able to get our shovels in the ground.
Oh, and that ground in England was butter.
Oh
my gosh, it was beautiful.
It was.
Compared
so
to Colorado. Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, cool. Excellent. Yeah, well, you put out a few videos on that, some of the things you found out there.
Yeah.
I think I just found a cow tag. I think that's about the 1950s cow tag, brass cow tag. Another one. Last time I was out there, I found the same thing, different shape. But yeah.
No, I think those are cool personally. I like them just because they're made out of metal. You know, it is a piece of history. It's not super old history, but but it's still cool. I think it's really cool.
I think it's a plate every time I hear it, because it's just so banging. And the size of it, I'm just like, either this is a cow tag or a military plate.
See, don't stop thinking that it's a tag. I mean, a buckle.
Right.
Because you'll just go lackadaisical on it and be like, it's another cow tag.
I'm not going to ding it.
And then you're going to ding it, or you'll lose the emotion.
Or I won't dig it, and it will be.
You'll just pass on it. Right.
Shoot.
Right.
Hey man, we got a couple things to announce real quick. We got a couple things going on. Let me see, which one you want to take?
Rush to the Rockies. How about we do that one?
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, we've got Rush to the Rockies. That is our yearly metal detecting adventure hunt that we put on for our treasure hunting club called Eureka Treasure Hunting Club. We're actually going to have it 2023. It's going to be called the Stampede. And that's going to be July 7th through the 9th. You're going to get 2 days of hunting, which is 5 separate hunts. Plus they got a kids hunt. And we're looking at until May 12th. So you've got about 5 more weeks left. If you guys sign up before May 12th, it's only $290. If you do after that, it's $350. So in addition to that early sign up, you'll be entered into a drawing. No, actually, that was before April 1st.
Yeah. Dang it, I missed before April 1st.
Oh, I was hoping I would get. God dang it! Oh well.
We had a lot of people take advantage of that, and there's quite a few people signed up already.
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that link in the live chat over here, and if you guys are interested, head over to that link, get signed up, and come join us out here in beautiful Denver, Colorado. We'll be kind of up in the mountains again.
There's been a lot of talk about seated hunts and
Yeah.
organized hunts. I mean, there's just so many of them right now. There's just
Yeah.
in the last few years, organized hunts have just exploded for sure. And out west here, we do seated hunts. There's not a lot of wild ground to kind of put an event around, but we do seated hunts. We try to make it as good as possible. We do make the statement that every dollar that you enter of your entry fee goes right into the ground, and we vow that, and we make good on that promise. And then people always say, well, what do you use to hold the event? Well, we are our metal detecting club, Eureka. This is our 50th year anniversary at Eureka Treasure Hunters Club. It's our golden jubilee, and we use club funds to help upfront cover those costs. And we have a Rush to the Rockies kind of nest egg that we use to put on the event. And then we do other things like there's, like raffle type drawings and different drawings throughout the thing that help finance the actual running of the event. And we can pay the club back with some of those funds. But all your entry fees go straight into the ground.
Yeah,
and we also bring extra from the club safe in case we have last minute entries. That's how we handle that. So I want to let everyone know that. That's kind of come up recently on some various groups and stuff. So we do a good job at putting that on. We're getting a lot of support this year from manufacturers. So it's going to be, last year was crazy. Last year was just insane. So we've got some videos out. Tony did a great drone shot of last year's event. You can go over to his channel and check that out. But yeah, that's.
I'm excited for that.
I'd love for you guys all come out and meet us out there. It's July 7th through 9th. Excellent. Rush to the Rockies, the Stampede. And then I just want to drop this into everyone's ear. If you're listening to this podcast, either live tonight or maybe in the replay later this week, and you're heading to the Garrett Memorial Hunt. The Charles Garrett Memorial Hunt's happening very soon out in Texas. And we have a group from Eureka that's heading out there to represent Eureka Treasure Hunters Club. And they're going to put up a table. And they're going to be handing out information, and they're going to have patches, and they're going to have different stuff. And you can stop by and see them and say hello at the Eureka Treasure Hunters Club table, and you're going to have an opportunity to win a Colorado Gold Nugget while you're there. So make sure you go up to the booth, say hi to all my friends that are going out. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make it. I had to choose between the Garrett and England, and I decided to go to England this year.
Good choice.
Yeah, but I would love to. I understand there's somebody I've been wanting to meet for a long time coming out to the Garrett from the UK. Digger Don, I believe, is heading out this year to the Garrett, and I would have loved to have gone and meet her. But make sure you stop by the Eureka booth and say hello and say you heard about them on Relics Radio and that you're there to say hello. What else we got going on?
Yeah, we've got something coming up next week on Relics Radio podcast right here.
That's it.
Tell everybody about what that is. That's we don't normally let the cat out of the bag this early about next week's guest, but
yeah,
this one's a special one.
Yeah, we got Delik joining us next week. Delik's going to come on with Nocta. She's coming on to talk about some of the happenings over at Nocta and join us. She's real supportive here of our podcast. And she is decided she's going to come. It's going to be early for her. It's going to be like 3:00 in the morning for her. Yeah. She's going to join us, and she says she's going to give away a legend. She's going to give away a legend here on the show to our listening audience. And Tony and I are trying to plan that right now on how to put that together to make it available to people. And she even kind of dropped a hint that she might have another big surprise in addition to the legend she may talk about. And
you're not going to want to miss that one.
No,
that's for sure.
Tony and I will be putting out videos on her other social media, talking, reminding you, letting you know what you have to do. But yeah, it's going to be if you all remember, if you listen to the show, if you've been listening for a while, last time she was on, it was a crazy show. We had a lot of people listening and watching live. That's for sure. Yeah. But more information to come on that. But she's always really generous when it comes to stuff like that, and she supports the community and this show especially. So looking forward to having Delik on.
Yep, absolutely. And we are, if you guys are listening on the replay, we actually are live right now on Spreaker.com. If you guys meet us on Thursday nights over on Spreaker.com, you can join in the live chat. There's a whole live chat going on in addition to what we're talking about over here. And we've got a whole bunch of people that are always with us. We've got a whole bunch of new people that are with us this week. We got Ohio Relic Hunter that's joining us right away saying evening. And Mr. David Rose says, good evening, everyone. Detecting addicts. Mr. Bill Hayes is always checking in with us every single week. Lewis Bean. Where's Lewis Bean from? Always comes in.
Oh, he's from Vancouver.
Vancouver Island, British Columbia.
That's it.
Matt Wall. WAHL. Matt, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you stopping by and joining us tonight.
Matt.
Yeah.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, and then there was one thing I wanted to mention real quick. Michael Sausage Bread Boyles, when we were talking about D-Lick over at Nukta, right. he made the comment over in the live chat. She's the hardest worker in the business. She is out there representing the company, and that's a legitimate, a great comment right there from Michael.
She definitely hustles.
Yeah,
I'll give her that. She does hustle, man. She's always on it. Yeah, I want to say hi to Dave Daly. Good to see how he's from Houston, Texas, and he's going to his first ever Garrett Memorial Hunt next weekend. Nice. Weather looks like 70% rain for Saturday. Hey, just get that rain gear out, dress in layers, and you'll be just fine. That's a great hunt. You're going to have a great time, Dave. Good luck to you out there.
Yeah.
And then also Keith McDaniel. Keith McDaniel reached out earlier on Facebook, said, hey, how do I hook up over there on that chat group? And it's more of a comment section. We call it a live chat, but it's actually a rolling live action comment section is what it is. But glad you made it, Keith. Good to see everyone. Hey, Dave Cruikshank, good to see you. Hollywood Joe coming in. All kinds of people joining for our guest tonight. And he's a good one. You want to bring him in?
Yeah. I mean, always a friend to the show. One of our best ambassadors for the metal detecting community. We're always lucky to have the time that Matt gives us, and we love talking with Matt. But we've got Matt Howell from Gone Diggin and from Beyond Oak Island, right?
Yeah, we got to say that.
I know.
Matt, how are you, man?
That's part of his resume now, right?
I'm good. You guys are way too kind.
Thanks for coming on with us, man. We always appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I love what you guys do. You always put on a great show, even though I can't always catch up with it. I try to do my best to follow us as closely as possible. And yeah, great giveaways, man. Look at you guys. I love it. Free machines just from listening.
Yeah.
You can't be
legend. Yeah, it's a good deal, man. Dee-Lick's really generous when it comes to stuff like that.
She's always been fantastic to us. So.
And we've got a lot of hard-hitting questions for her. Well, you wait till she gets in. I'm going to have to give her the warning.
Yeah.
You better have your big girl pants on. We're gonna ask her some tough ones, man. We got it all written down.
You know, it's funny you guys are talking about all these organized metal detecting events, and man, I feel like that's the spree I've been on for like the last 3 weeks. I don't know what it's been. Well, I do know what it's been, but it's been wild.
You made it out to Digstock, didn't you?
Yeah, we made it to Digstock, and then the following weekend we came up here to back to Culpeper to the Liberty Hall hunt, which is a very small group hunt in the bright red soil of Culpeper County. And then we went to Diggin In Virginia, and we've got a few more things. I'd love to come out to Colorado and hang out with you guys. I'm figuring out how to get down to Alabama and work on some things of my own as time progresses. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Busy man,
it seems like there's so many of them, huh? There's just so many out there.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, you can go anywhere you want in the country. It just depends on where you are, how far you want to drive, or how far you want to fly. It's, Digstock was, I don't know if I'm sure you guys talked about that. It was an interesting event, but for me, it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot of things that I'd love to share with you guys.
Yeah. We're going to ask you about all that. That and Diggin In Virginia. It's been a while since we've talked to you about Diggin In Virginia, both the event and yourself actually digging in Virginia. So yeah, we want to chat about all that stuff, but really events and stuff was going to be the focus of tonight. And since you've been on so many of them, I thought you'd make a good guest tonight so we can talk about some of them. And you went to. Did you go up there with a group up to Digstock, or did you?
No. So actually, I went with my buddy Brad, who was on Beyond Oak Island with me. And Brad, as you guys know, he's not much of a guy with a metal detector. He's a guy who likes to go underwater and dive and and look for old things. So it's completely out of his wheelhouse to go. But he's pretty good at finding rocks, which includes shark's teeth. And, Digstock was a monstrous event. A lot of really cool things happened at Digstock, and a lot of things that were, hiccups of the event, so to speak. I won't speak illy of anybody who puts on an event. It's much bigger a task than I think most people realize, and you can't ever predict the unpredictable. So, that's kind of,
man. Yeah, shoot.
Yeah. I mean, even whether it's a seated event or, whatever the case is, and that place was huge, right? So Brad decided on day one, we had a little vendor space. We sold some sweatshirts, and it was.
Yeah, I saw you set up a booth, man.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
What did you have there?
If folks don't know, I've started selling machines, full line Garrett, Nocta Macro, Mine Lab, XP dealer, and I'm just kind of doing it small time, selling to folks who contact me through my social media, and just trying to provide quality products for what people need, kind of individualized sales, not like, hey, this is the hottest machine on the market, but hey, how do you hunt? Where do you hunt? What do you do? Kind of stuff. But so with that, I've added some relic cases and some custom made items. We've been doing some laser items, like we do these patches like for Beyond Oak Island.
Oh, nice.
Where they're just like you could just,
oh my gosh, yeah,
just just put an iron right onto whatever you're doing. And I have Gone Diggin ones. We did some coasters, just doing some different stuff, trying to bring some different products to the market.
Are you selling online yet, or are you just selling at the shows?
Started GoneDiggin.net, and I'm slowly building my product catalog there. I was just really focused on having a website that works effortlessly. So I don't have everything done quite and up online there, but it will be, I hope within the next 6 months.
Pull that patch up again. I want to describe it. It's a kind of it's a black patch, square patch. It's all done in black, silver, and like a cream color, I guess it is there.
It's like a gold.
Like a goldish? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like a light,
like that.
Light gold.
Like a light gold. Yeah, it's got his Gone Diggin logo at the top, and it says Beyond Oak Island down below in the Beyond Oak Island font and stuff. And then the back of it is just an iron-on, right? You peel that off and then iron it on.
Yep, peel it on, iron it off. And this is kind of a one-off thing that we did just for the Beyond Oak Island premiere last year.
Yeah, no.
Actually, cool. This year. So
I need to get myself one of those.
Yeah,
That's a cool patch, man.
Yeah, so kind of I got pretty lucky, it was pretty chilly the first couple of days ago of Digstock, so I sold some sweatshirts and some hats and some shark's teeth, and just getting out there and mingling. And I think that for a lot of people, that's what these events are about. It's not necessarily, I'll say this out front, if you go to an organized metal detecting event, a seated hunt, or whatever it is that revolves around metal detecting, if you go with the idea of you're going to find enough stuff to get your money back, you're going for the wrong purpose, and you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. I think a lot of people do come with that idea.
Yeah.
And there are people that find more than others, you know what I mean? And you got to get your coil over it, and you got to come for the right reasons. And what you're going to experience more than the finds in the ground is the camaraderie of like-minded people and the people you connect with and stuff. Like at Rush last year, right, Tony? There was people from all over the country, and they were sitting with people they don't normally sit and hang out with, right? We had people from Nebraska sitting from people from Kansas, and they were kind of like, oh, we've heard of your club out there, this and that and this and that. And so far this year, we've got even more people come. We had Mitch King come in from Florida, and it's just always cool to get to know these people, and people come up to you and are like, hey, yeah, man, we came in from, Washington State. And you're like, wow, hey, cool. You made it all this way. And everyone has a good time that way. And then if you find stuff, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
The first year I went to Rush of the Rockies, I really didn't know what to expect, and I was very behind the scene, like not out trying to meet people or anything. This past year, it was all about meeting people, talking with them, sharing the experiences. It's definitely more of a social event. And I think like with what Matt said, if you go into it with that mindset, it's a social event. If I find anything, that's fantastic. But if it's flip flopped, you most likely are going to be disappointed, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's pretty commonplace for most people who attend an event, who have never attended an event before, is that have that standoffish part of like, where do I fit in? And I think that's within a group setting, whether you go to a party that you were just invited to, you don't know a lot of people, or it's like the second or third neighborhood, barbecue or whatever it is. Right. Everybody's tend to be a little introverted to step back and just kind of see what the crowd's all about. And I can understand that too, for sure. But that my encouragement would be that if you're going to go to an organized event, to go out and talk. Like, just get out of that comfort zone. Go talk to somebody. Say hi to every single person you see in the field. You're going to have a blast doing that. You may not dig as many targets because you'll find that some people want to talk more than others. But in the end, yeah, you've really that's going to make a much better event for you.
Right. Yeah, Michael Boyle is over in the live chat, just checked in and said, events are just to see friends and make new ones.
Yeah. And then occasionally that you see these things that come out of the ground, you're just like, I had no idea that either existed or, was how did you find that here?
Yeah. And it's different with wild events than it is with seeded events. Sure. You know what I mean? I think you get a lot of people in seeded events that really want to go and try and get their money's worth. And that's, I think it's more of a focus there than wild hunts, because wild hunts, you just never know. You don't know what's in the ground. I mean, the event organizers try their best to put you on great ground, but it's really, even when Jeff Lubert and I went to Pound the Ground, right, in 2019, all the way there, all we said about the finds, all we said is like one or two cool little finds.
Yep.
That's all we're looking for. Like, that'd be cool. We found one or two cool little things, flat button, something, whatever. And, we both succeeded in that, and tons of people around us even exceeded that. And, some people didn't do as well as they would have liked. But that's just it, right? That's detecting. Like, you're not always going to find stuff. But at a seed hunt, it's out there. Things have been planted, things have been, buried a little bit under the ground. You can't really see too much of them on the surface, and you've got to go out there and find them. But you're also out there with 100 200 other people doing the same, and you got to move. You got to get that stuff. And there's different tips to seeded hunts that help you out. So if you are coming to a seeded hunt, look up some of them tips. Join some of these groups. Ask about best way to approach a seeded hunt. But like Matt said, if you go into it with, I'm just going to go there and meet friends, because like metal detecting, right? It's not, I know it's getting more and more popular, but it's not that popular. It's kind of a quirky, odd hobby for us to be doing. And when you can get together with, 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000 of your of other nutcases like you guys are that are out there metal detecting, it's kind of cool, because they all understand the struggles and the successes and the struggles we all go through, and equipment, and trying to decide what to do, where to go, how to get permissions, all that stuff. So when you can get around people like that are experiencing the same stuff you do, it's really cool.
Absolutely. Yep, we had another question come in. We had a question come in from Mr. David Rose. Hashtag dig stock super spreader. Did Matt get sick like so many others? Or did you stay clear of everybody?
I did not.
Good.
Dig stock was kind of I won't say last minute for us, but we certainly didn't plan it out and as well as we should have. So we ended up staying in a Airbnb outside of town. So that probably saved us from
a lot of people got sick.
Yeah, there were a lot. There really were. I know that the Chig got an illness, and then it sounded like he super spreaded it through a bunch of people. But
Wow.
fortunately or unfortunately, he was busy every time I went to say hi to Bo. I
There
personally
you
have
go.
never met him before, but I went to say hi to him a couple times, and he'd always have somebody come up. So I was just like, "Cool, man."
Yeah.
I kind of did my own thing, talked to some of the other folks, and that was a that was a relief that I did not catch
That's
whatever
right.
was going on with that.
Blessing in, in
Um,
disguise.
yeah,
Wow.
a lot of people had a really hard time with dig stock, and I'll kind of equate that to digging in Virginia as we go through it. You had to move. You absolutely had to move through dig stock to get into the right spots. Um, or you had to be able to adapt and step back and realize what was there or what wasn't there. The first day of Digstock, I found 5 flat buttons and a shield nickel within the first 15 minutes because I'd done a little bit of research after the first night of looking at the map. And I said, this is a prominent crossroad. Well, as I started working towards where I thought the prominent crossroad was, the permission ended probably about 200 yards before I thought there was a significant amount of stuff. And I still believe that one field, if I could go back into it, would actually have a fair amount of targets left in it. But it wasn't on the property we had. So I walked another 12,000 steps and realized on day 2 I needed to do something different. And in meeting and talking to people, we had met some guys from local who had driven down who just come for the arrowhead hunt. So we started looking for Native American relics, and by the end of day 3, even through all the rain, we had found probably, I would say, 30 or 40 points
Oh,
between the
you're
4 of
kidding.
us. Yeah,
Great job.
yeah,
How did they
absolutely.
get property for that? Like they
Oh,
just.
it was all mixed in with the original metal detecting property.
Wow.
Mm,
So you had to be able to look for the signs, one. But on day 3, before they did all the giveaways, no, day 2, I'm sorry, we were out in the middle of a field and we were digging and sifting. And I had made a couple sifters to do for sale that if anybody wanted a sifter, they could buy one. I thought they were pretty reasonably priced. And just because I don't think people wanted to carry it around,
yeah.
I didn't sell any, which was fine. So I ended up handing them out to folks in the field and allowing people to dig and sift with my sifters. And I saw some of the coolest points come out of my sifters that these guys were working in holes.
Oh my goodness. Oh
So,
man.
that was great. It was just like, hey, I'm not using them. Like, let's make this enjoyable for some
Yeah.
other folks.
Yeah.
In that process, I saw 2 grooved axes come up to me. Somebody said, "What's this rock? It looks weird." They had a grooved axe, and then like an hour later, this girl comes, is like, "I kicked this rock. It's got these bands in it," and they were both grooved Native American
Oh man.
tomahawks.
Oh man.
Wow.
Holy
And
cow.
yeah, those folks were from Washington State, and
Mm,
so in doing these things, if you're not being successful at one thing, you really got to step back, think about why aren't you being successful, and is it because you don't have the right machine? Is it because you're staying in one place, or is it because maybe what you thought was here just isn't? So maybe you have to do something different. And I think that's a big pitfall to a lot of people who go to an organized metal detecting event and can't adapt quickly and on the fly.
yeah.
If you're not being successful,
Try
you're
something
not
different.
going. Yeah, you're not going to be successful doing the exact same things for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. Those are good tips. I know that at seated events, you gotta be quick, you gotta be fast. Shorten up that rod a little bit, shorten your swing down a bit, and just go, 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 and pick and go. I know that when we were in England, we ran into kind of that a little bit of. We would, we were so blown away that we were there digging in England, and when you're there, any swing can be something absolutely amazing. 3,000-year-old or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tony and I would find something, and we did this a lot.
Yeah.
Now we had a lot of detecting to do, so we could afford it. But he would find something and he'd be like, Ken, check this out. And so I'd put my detector down and I'd walk over there. Him and I would be like looking at it, cleaning up. I'd be searching on Google, trying to find it, And one of the organizers came by and just like, guys, look that stuff up later, man. Just you keep swinging, you know what I mean? Just put that in your good side and then we'll look at it, we look at it later and stuff. I know you guys want to like look it all up and find it all the information about it now. And I was like, hell yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you got a lot of ground to cover. You should, you get on it and keep moving. Or if you're not, like you said, if you're not finding stuff in a heavy concentration, move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. It's so how many days was it? It was 3 days out there, right?
So that was 3 days in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then I traveled home back to Virginia. And took a couple weeks off, and I was still digging holes. But then we went to Liberty Hall, which is in Culpeper County, right outside of Culpeper Courthouse, really close to some of the major winter camps. Had a little bit of activity, but it's a really cool story about the home. It is a colonial period home that the gentleman who built it, his father was a Quaker, and when you think of liberty, you think of the Revolution, and we're overthrowing the American government. Well, or the British government. I'm sorry, and the gentleman's father was a Quaker, and he didn't like them fooling around with women, drinking, or gambling. So he built the home to fool around with women, drink, and gamble. So he named it Liberty Hall.
Liberty Hall. Oh my goodness!
Good for him.
And it's built in a very odd. It's not a very symmetrical house. It looked like some young man threw this house together. It was 2 stories. It was a very nice home for the period, but he clearly didn't build it to be stately. He built it for a purpose.
Yeah, you had to get to the fooling around part, man.
That's right. And then fast forward to the American Civil War, and you have Union and Confederate troops sitting around it, some cannon emplacements, and some interesting stuff happening there. So that was a 1-day event, very nice. Cool event. It's a working cattle farm, but it is the red hot mineralized soil of Culpeper County. And for most people who don't know, Virginia has a pretty significant gold vein that runs right through the middle of it. And it's when you get into that mineralized soil, you have a ton of iron. And what that iron does, it makes most VLFs not be able to see through that kind of iron mask that's in the soil. So you really need to have a pulse induction machine for that. I'm not going to tell you that you can't find things with a VLF in that soil. It certainly has its point and its place, but it's like going to a home run derby with a wiffle ball bat. Why am I'm going to give myself the best chance possible. I'm going to use the best bat I can. I'm not going to use the worst tool for the job.
Right.
And that pulse induction machine really is where it's at, especially when you get into Culpeper County, even some of the other Fauquier County, some of the other places like that.
What's the soil like down in near Richmond where you're at?
So Richmond is VLF ground. Typically a lot of sandy soils around us. You can find some clay. You start moving towards the western part of Richmond, start headed towards the Blue Ridge. That's when you start getting towards the edge of that gold mineralization area. But for the most part, VLF, XP Deus, Equinox, any of your normal Garrett AT Pros do great. Bigger the coil, the more the depth. So you can rock and roll. And I'm not going to down those machines in Culpeper. I've seen places like when I was at Liberty Hall, I saw a sword belt plate dug, which I believe to be a Confederate buckle, the way it was cast and made, and a U.S. box plate dug, both with VLF machines. both of them were less than 2 inches in the ground.
Mm.
You know,
Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
so, and that comes to the point of a organized hunt is sometimes you're just going to get lucky.
Yeah.
You know,
we have a lot of people listening to this podcast, and somebody listening might not know the difference between VLF machine and PI machines. Why don't you explain that real quick if you could?
So, very low frequency or VLF is going to have a range of 0 to 100 kilohertz, from what I understand. And then a pulse induction machine is the way that the machine pulses the electricity, and basically it's working on different frequencies and is pulsing the electricity into the ground. So your pulse induction machines are only going to be tone machines. They're not going to give you a VDI or a visual display indicator, most typically represented as a number of 0 to 100. So they're going to actually just give you a sound, and you're going to have to learn by your ear to understand what that sound is, and is it good on your machine or is it bad on your machine. And versus like a VDI on say a Equinox, maybe a 16, and you may know that a 16 is a pull tab, a gold ring, or a zinc penny.
Yeah.
In terms of the sound from the PI, you said you're learning the sound. Does that sound also kind of relate to the same sounds and tones that you have on the VLF? Where you hear like low, mid, high.
No, so typically what you're going to get is a tone, whether it's a high tone or like a woo, or a woo, and that's pretty much it. You're basically, now the new Garrett Axiom is going to be a much different tone. They have a couple different things going on, but typically most of your PIs are going to be a tone kind of machine where you're not going to get a beeps like other machines.
Yeah, Ken, I know that you used one for the first time when you went out to DIV. You've had some good conversations with me about it. How difficult is it to learn that PI?
I think I was more scared of it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Than I needed to be. You know what I mean? One, because I was with Matt and all his buddies, and they held my hand right through it and really gave me how to set it up and tips on it right away. And they had me working it right away. Like it was, but it is a steep learning curve, because when you get accustomed to listening to sharp tones, not wave tones, but sharp tones, and maybe little sounds ahead of it and behind the tone from a VLF, and then a VDI display. It's different to then hear these wave tones of a PI machine, because in that wave it gives you all the information you need, or a lot of information you need, and that's what you're learning to discern as to whether you want to dig a target or not. It's the whole spectrum of the wave of sound from start to finish, because some will sound like a woo and some will sound like woo woo, or something like that, and you'll be like, okay, did I swing too fast? Did I not? And your swing speed and how you swing your coil, like Matt was showing me, like how to dip the coil down inside of a hole after you've dug it up a little bit and kind of really pick it up. And it was just a different thing. But I went into it, scared of the weight, because a lot of those PI machines are heavy. And I knew I'd be digging for 3 days out of DIV. And then just the sound thing, like, was I going to spend 2 days of a learning curve not finding anything? And I think by the end of the first day, I was able to easily kind of tell three ringers, still getting fooled by those nails, those small head nails and stuff like that. But I was able to pick out the three ringers easily enough, or at least got used to that. And everything else, though, was like, and buttons sounded really good, depending how they're oriented to ground. But it was definitely a learning curve for sure. But I encourage everybody, if you get a chance to put your hands on a PI machine, to do it at least once in your career, because it's a different animal. And when you've seen people like Matt and his friends or a lot of other people too that have been to DIV a number of times that use PI machines, and some of these guys are masters with it. They're they could tell you, everything about that machine, and People still learn stuff, right? You don't want to ever say you know something 100%, but I'm telling you, these boys are good, and they like to dig. Let me tell you, people at DIV dig. Like if you call yourself that, let's go digging this weekend. I'm a digger of holes. I'm a digger in the dirt, boy. Those boys at DIV, those guys dig, man.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's like how much time are you going to invest in anything that you do? And, if you want to be the best at what you do, you put the most time into it.
Sure.
And I think that, I'm lucky to be able to hunt with the PI machine the way I do. I think it's an absolutely groundbreaking game changer. When somebody said in the chat, I only hunt with a PI at the beach, and it's a way deep machine. And it's a tool. It's a tool for the toolbox, right? Like
Yep.
it's not a great machine around power lines and EMI. Yeah, it will absolutely drive you bananas. This past DIV we had a bunch of cattle field fences to contend with, and so with the PI machine, it because it's the way it's putting out electricity, it hears electricity because it's receiving that signal. And I've been in fields before and heard far off like thunderstorms coming, and every time lightning would strike, you'd hear a crack in your headphones.
Oh my goodness!
And that's like, all right, I'm getting out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This thunderstorm's 10 miles away, but you can hear it in your machine.
Amazing.
So, it's a tool for the toolbox. But, if you're going to go to Culpeper and you're going to go to this past DIV, you need to have it in your toolbox and you need to be familiar with it. If it gets too heavy, like Ken said, you pull out a VLF and you go hunt with that. I saw a shell dug at 8 inches with an Equinox in hot soil at this last DIV, and it's because he said his arms got tired, so he swung what he had and he found a shell. Wow. I don't know if anybody else put their coil over top of it,
right.
But shallow targets are a learning curve with the PI as well. So
I think is that the one you put out a video?
I did
put out a cool video on it on your DIV 54, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, DIV 54.
And I think I remember you in that video saying that you thought maybe other people went over it, but they thought it was an overload signal.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were just like, oh, it's overload, so I'm not going to dig it or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
That turned out to be a shell.
Just a monster signal in the ground, and most people, again, you got to hunt with these machines, and you got to hunt in the right places to know them. And probably 90% of the tones that I dug at this DIV were overloads, because I don't think I dug anything much more than 8 or 10 inches in the ground.
Yeah.
So
things are deep. Things are deep at DIV. You can get really deep, and then if you get into a pit, that's another thing. What's a pit, Matt?
So for us, we look for pits as places of trash that soldiers would have done. They would have dug holes, dumped whiskey bottles, dumped broken spurs, saddles, whatever was garbage to them. They would have thrown it into what we call a pit. Or they would have left them in the bottom of their winter quarters when they were evacuating or moving. Say, spring had come around and it was time to leave. You just, whatever garbage you had, you left it in your winter camp, and then you went on. And then maybe somebody came around the next year and cleaned your hut out and made it their own. Maybe the farmer piled all the rocks from the chimney in there, and they went about plowing their fields for the rest of the next 660 years. So this past DIV was a battlefield, so it was much different. Not a place that has pits, as running, moving troops wouldn't have hunkered in, except for entrenchments or emplacements for cannons, things like that.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know it was at what battlefield was it at?
So this was called the Battle of Freeman's Ford. It was August of 1862. So for us in Virginia, we Gettysburg is what we consider the middle of the war for the most part. It's considered the high water mark for the Confederacy. even though the war would go on to 1865. Richmond would fall April 12th, which was just a few days ago. And then April 18th, Lee would surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. And, so we kind of consider the Middle War period to be 63 and everything else before that early or late war. So this is an early war site, and really interesting because a lot of the regulation buttons, whether it was the federal regulation or the Confederate regulation buttons, they didn't exist. So they were a lot of militia items that were issued by the states that were still being worn by troops in the field.
Interesting. Yeah. So not as many pits dug in there, like you said. And so a lot of what was being found, just a lot of bullets and a lot of dropped belt keepers, knapsack, J hooks, stuff like that.
So a few different camp related items that you'd expect to find, a few J hooks, a few eagle buttons. There were a number of Confederate uniform buttons, Virginia, a couple Georgias, and North Carolina. So again, those early war buttons that they hadn't switched over to the letter buttons, the I's, the A's, the C's, even though there was a local I found, or I for infantry, Confederate button found as well. But mostly a lot of fired bullets. There were a few coins found. There was a colonial house site that was kind of sat within the battlefield. And so there were some house site related items, some coins, Spanish coins, 1803 half cent, and then a number of artillery shells, which included, because it was early war, some really rare British import stuff, Britain shells.
Wow, really cool.
Yeah, really, really neat shells and bolts and things like that you don't see at other places.
Wow. Yeah, really cool.
That's really cool.
So yeah, I mean, to put your, some of those shells go for significant money. One of them was like a $2,500 Britain bolt that was found.
Wow. I know that stuff's highly collectible for sure. That whole, Civil War relic market can be quite, intense when you start looking at some of that stuff.
Yeah,
it's also very counterfeited. You know what I mean? Like there's, I think as a market, I think there's a lot of counterfeiting that goes on. Would you agree with that, or do you think you just got to go to a reputable dealer if you're ever going to buy that kind of stuff?
It does, and for the most part, I only typically associate a price, so it's relative to other people. Most everybody, when you get out metal detecting, even if you're in Colorado and you find, you're really excited because you found an 1877 Indian head penny, right? You're like, oh, this is a key date coin. This is amazing. What's the first question you guys get?
Yeah, how much is it worth?
What's it worth? Right,
yeah.
right, because that's something that only people can associate value to rarity, right. But that's not always the case.
Right.
So, I like, so that's kind of the only reason I do that. But I think that there is a lot of that counterfeited stuff, and you really have to be careful with that if you're in the market for shopping for something like that.
I've been the past couple months, I've been buying stuff at estate auctions and flipping it on eBay.
Yeah.
It's something I've been doing. And I was there was this one auction here in Colorado that came up, and it had a CS buckle, and it had a US buckle, and it had all kinds of other stuff, period, powder horn, different stuff. And I just didn't know if it was real enough, and I didn't want to take a chance that it wasn't. And, because the numbers were getting up there pretty good for them. And I was like, they went beyond my budget for sure. But still, it would have been a great deal from what I've seen them sell elsewhere for. And if I had just had the budget, I would have probably went for it. But I was like, is this reenactment? Like, is this just really good reenactment? Like, I just couldn't tell from the photos, without putting my hands on it or anything like that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when you get into like the authenticity of this stuff, I have some up and down stories with stuff that that a couple pieces that I purchased, and that's probably a whole nother show we could talk about. Whether it's coin collecting or any of that other stuff, but you really have to be sharp on that. And I have a whole stack of relic reference books behind me, and that's the only reason why.
Yeah. We had a question come in, didn't we have, Tony?
Let's see. Matt Wall.
Right?
Yeah. Matt Wall asked, which company would you all prefer for a PI? And Matt was looking at the ATX.
So I would say that if I was going to look at the PI machine right now, what I would look at is either the Garrett Axiom, which is brand new, and I can't give you a full review on it because I haven't had my hands on it. I saw things found with the Axiom at the last DIV, and it was probably the most Axioms I've seen in action. I've seen them found. I saw things found, but they weren't things that I was like, oh, hey, no other machine would have found this. Miguel from Garrett found a beautiful shell at like 5.5 inches in the ground. So having seen the Parrot dug with the Equinox prior,
right.
I don't know. So I think there's a lot of potential for the Axiom. I did a video on Liberty Hall if he wants to go check that out, with some tones and stuff like that from a gentleman named Hugh, and it's an interesting machine. I like to get it in my hands, really give it a work through, and I'm in the process with talking with the folks at Garrett to possibly get that to happen. The other machine, hands down, is going to be the MineLab GPX. Any of the GPX series, if you can get your hands on a used one, it's a great machine. They're still serviced. If you want to buy a new one, hit me up. I'll gladly take care of that for you. But they're expensive across the board. The PI machines are expensive. They both run just under $4,000 for a brand new one, whether it's an Axiom or a GPX. And you just have to weigh the pros and cons for it right now, the available accessories to what you want to do with it in the future. Do you want to water hunt? Because like Buckle Boy said, it's a heck of a beach machine once you can get it down. I know guys in Australia that dig hundreds of gold rings on the beach that nobody else can hear because of that. But I'm not a proficient beach hunter. But man, you want to pay for a GPX, go ahead and go beach hunting with it. You'll at least get some coins. But I think that the Axiom's probably going to be a really solid machine. It has some really cool features, like you can change the tones around, and I really like that. I think there's value in that. So I mean, those are, to me, those are the two on the market that I would stick with.
Have you ever swung any of the Fisher products, even some of their older stuff, older PIs?
No, I never have. And I guess like what do they have? Like the CZs, some of the water machines they have.
Yeah, CZ21s. They got the new Impulse, right? Isn't that kind of their latest stab at PI Impulse series? I think that's PI. I think that's a PI machine.
Yeah, and so I don't use an Impulse pinpointer because a PI sitting next to a PI is madness. You turn on a pulse induction pinpointer right next to a pulse induction metal detector, they're going to blow each other out of the water.
Right. Yeah. All pinpointers. Sometimes, if you use, like, I think I was using a Carrot when I was in Culpeper with you, and it's funny. It's like they weren't getting after each other. All right, the MineLab and the Garrett Carrot, but the Garrett Carrot didn't like that soil either very much. You know what I mean? So like it was interesting to pinpoint and try to find targets in the ground for sure.
Yeah, I spent a couple hours at Liberty Hall just like trying to help people with targets, and we were digging some bullets that were a little out of their VLF, well, a lot out of their VLF range. And, the first thing they do is they turn their carrot on like up out of the air and just jam in the hole and it ring out everywhere. I mean, there's enough iron in this soil. Every piece of the soil makes the carrot go off. And I had to explain to people like, Tony, have you ever ground balanced your pinpointer?
Is that when it's on and then you hit it again while it's in the hole?
Well, so that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
But typically in Culpeper, we turn them on touching the ground inside the hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you turn them on anywhere outside of it, it's going to lose its mind.
Everything.
Yeah.
You can get lazy with that
crazy
out here, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I try to all the time. Like, I'll pull it off my sleeve as I'm on my way to the ground, and I'll touch it to the ground and turn it on. I'll like try to as almost like a habit, but really in our soil, you don't really need to do that. Like it's going to work just as fine for you out here if you don't do that. But if you do that, if you get in the habit of not doing that, and then you go to a place like Culpeper, you're gonna have fits.
Yeah, you will, and it's like the same reason that a pinpointer acts crazy on the beach because of the salt and the mineralizations in the sand. So, it's just one of those many things that you have to work through with all of the steps to make yourself successful at one of these events.
Sure.
For this DIV, because it was a battlefield and a moving battlefield, I decided that it was going to be best for my strategy that if I moved around as much as possible. I shared kind of throughout my video my steps and my statistics. My first day I walked 6.25 miles with like 14 or 15,000 steps. My second day was a little slower and only did 5.5
miles.
And
Slacker.
Miles. Yeah, miles. And then let's see. And then Saturday by noon, I had done 3.5 miles and finished off with another 6.5 miles and 15 flights climbed.
Covering ground.
Yeah. So we did a little over 18 miles in 3 days, not including the 5 miles I did the day before on the pre-hunt with a couple friends. And,
that's one thing, man. You're going to do these events. That's something that actually we have a guest coming up here in a few weeks to talk about this exact topic. But you got to take care of yourself, man. Like, it's no joke. And you go to an event, if you're just used to going out and doing your own detecting around, and then you go to an event, you're going to walk. You're going to put in a lot of more physical exertion than you're used to. And we're going to actually have a doctor on with us in a few weeks that came with us to England. He's going to go ahead and come on and talk about keeping yourself healthy while out there doing metal detecting, especially events. Like in England, right? I was like 7 days. I was 4,000 steps short of 100,000 steps in the week that we were in England. And for me going from maybe, 800 steps in a day, maybe, to 17,000 steps a day, it took its toll on my body every night. And, living on Advil, which probably wasn't the best thing for me. But at the end of the week, it was just like, man, we were worn out physically,
Right. You roll out of the bed and you're like, oh, my knees are going to work this morning or they're not.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty wild. And it's something that most people don't think about. I mean, with any sort of event, and there's a social event aspect to all of it too, as well. You're like the first night, you're like, oh yeah, we'll go down to the bar and have a couple drinks, and maybe you wake up with a pound in the head and you're like, oh my gosh. And then you go out and walk, 6-7 miles. So it's,
you got to take that in consideration for sure. Especially if you're not used to that kind of hunting.
Well, I think the steps are one thing, but you're also talking about, how many holes are you digging? 100 to 300 holes a day.
Yeah.
It's the up and down, onto your knees. You're standing up, you're moving around, you're down again, you're up. It takes a toll.
It is. It's more than the steps for sure. And and what you do at night, all that stuff impacts you, but you just got to keep yourself healthy, stay hydrated, and keep yourself healthy up there. I mean, last year, Rush to the Rockies, right here in Colorado. Yeah. We do our event at 8,500 feet elevation. And that's where we start. And then we're climbing up hills. Our hunt fields are on the side of hills, side of mountains, and they're on a pitch, a pretty good pitch, some of them. And people that came, they knew that ahead of time that came, but everyone kind of commented like, wow, like it's really affecting us, to be in this altitude and on these steep hills and stuff. And it added to the event, it added to the experience. But yeah, you got to come prepared for that. Drink lots of water, pace yourself, push when you have to push and rest when you have to rest, and that goes with any hunt that you do, like Diggin in Virginia, right? Like you just have vastness. There's just vastness usually. These farms that they do these on.
Yeah, but the cool part about in this hunt, I wasn't the golden goose this hunt, but I got to watch Ross Walker.
Oh my goodness!
Dig a beautiful eagle breastplate. I mean, again, that thing was 2.5 inches in the ground tops. We were digging shotgun cap after shotgun cap. We both had a whole pouch full, and he's screaming and yelling at me, and I run over there, and there's a beautiful eagle breastplate laying right in the middle of the hole. He was so excited too, man. It was so fun to watch. And
Tony put the link to Matt's video in the chat. We have it down below in the description too. So if you're listening to the replay, all of Matt's social media stuff is right down below in the description of the podcast. But go through the comments here. Tony's actually putting it every now and then into the chat. It's a great video you did.
Well, thank you.
And I think, who was it that found one when we were there? It was
Jamie.
Jamie found one too. Like right in amongst how all the rest of us were detecting. He just found that spot in between all the rest of the coils that had swung over it and found it. I couldn't believe how close we were to it.
Yeah, man, you were within 15 or 20 feet the first day when we dug our little small trash pit that had a number of broken bottles and stuff in it, but it's a cool feature, and we ended up digging that one. And what did we see come out in that field around it? We saw a full pickle bottle with one scoop. The guy just shovels, and there's a pickle bottle laying on the ground.
Right. Right.
Jamie digs a plate within 5 feet of that. So.
It's crazy.
Wow.
And people always wonder, like these fields have been hunted for years. Mm-hmm. Not only from DIV, but even prior to that. They've been hunted for years, and. But just like England, everyone's like, well, your group's going to be on those same fields that you go to over and over and over again. But they never get hunted out.
No, it's impossible. How could you ever hunt out 3,000 years of people living in one place? You never could do it.
Especially when it's turned up, deep plowed year after year after year,
Yeah.
Turned and rolled and spread.
You take a gold coin from the top of a hoard and put it on the top, or you move something to the bottom. I mean, it's going to be endless. It's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. Because some of our experiences there were absolutely crazy. Tony and I are putting together a presentation to give to our club here in next week. And, just thinking back on all this stuff, like one of the first fields we went to, everyone was just like, it was like fishing, like dirt fishing, right? Everyone was fish on. People were finding stuff all over the place. And then we left that place and came back later in the week, and people were still hitting.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And it's like all of the winter camps I think of, and we got a DIV back at one of the farms I'd been to, and someone was like, man, I cannot believe we're here. And I looked at him and I told him, I said, I would give up everything I've ever dug in my entire life for what's left on this farm. Because it's that much stuff left, and you'll never find it all. But if somebody said, here's a magic x-ray device, I'm going to get you the keys to the castle, but you just have to give us everything you ever found, I would do it tomorrow. Because there's that much stuff left in these places. Yeah. I'm sure England's the same way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just give me that power to go out and raise my hands and have everything lift up out of the dirt so I can see all the stuff that's there. That's That's my fantasy. Just give me
Oh,
that
no.
That'd be
power.
amazing.
Give me just that superhero power. I'm just going to have everything pop up out of the ground. I think everyone would be amazed if you could do something like that, because there's so much stuff down there.
No,
So
I
much
want
stuff in the ground.
I want the power that just says dig here, because I want to dig it.
Yeah.
You know,
Ah,
like,
yeah,
I'm the,
yeah.
That's
I'm the
true.
weirdo that's like, I don't want to pull it out. I just want to dig it. I want
Yeah.
to find it myself.
That's funny. Hey, phone lines are open. You want to call Matt? You want to talk to us here on the Relics Radio? Go ahead and give us a call. Phone line here. Get a pen. Write it down. It's 270-495-0315. One more time, 270-495-0315. Tony put Denny, paging Denny.
Oh
Give
my
us a
God.
call, Denny. You know
I
you
walked
want
in there
to.
Just for
feeling
you,
him
Matt.
yelling at me before I got on my truck.
Yeah, I think he had a pretty good event. I think Barb had a pretty good event. She posted she had a good time, and you see a lot of the same people, right? When you go to these events, especially DIV. DIV has a lot of return, which is odd, because I want to talk to you in a minute about how you get to go to DIV, and I want you to explain that process. But you do see a lot of the same people.
You do, and so I mean, while we're chatting here, we can do that. You know, it's an invitational event. So, you know, they started off, 54 events ago, and they started off as the Legends of Relic Hunting event, and they invited 50 people to come dig this farm, and then they invited a few more the next time, and a few more the next time. And so it is invitational. I saw somebody griping on a Facebook page about how hard it is to get into DIV. And it's not really that difficult, but you either need to know somebody who has been or attended, who is in still good standings and will vouch for you. That will always help. Or you have to make silly YouTube videos of yourself digging holes and screaming about Jamaican bobsled relics. They seem to like that. So,
and beyond that, it's just luck of the draw, right? They still do it the same way, where you go on there and you.
Yeah, they do have an alternatives list. So if you don't make the first, typically you'll have 200 people sign up for a new site, and they'll add 100 alternates, and life changes, life happens. They recognize that. And, you may have 20, 30 people drop off, but they'll fill in the alternates list. And if you're patient enough, like I was patient when I first started going, which was, I'm two DIVs away from being to 20 of them.
Wow.
I was at DIV 36 is my first one. I signed up for DIV 34, DIV 35, and didn't get in, and I was pretty upset about that. I have watched DIVs from people who made videos since DIV 5.
Greg Tony.
Yeah, my friend Greg Tony, the Saving History.
Yeah. SC Digger. Yeah.
Yeah, watched SC Digger for years before I ever even had the opportunity to go to one. So, John and Rose do a really good job with their organization. I've never been to a DIV that did not produce relics, and if it was just because for me, I didn't put my coil over the good stuff. I didn't follow my own tips that I gave you tonight, because I was learning. So
yeah.
Learn from our mistakes.
Hey, we got a caller, Copper Joe. Hey, Copper Joe, you're on with Matt Howell, Tony, and myself. How are you, buddy?
Good. How are you doing, DK?
Doing good.
Good.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Hey. Yeah, it was a good show so far.
Yeah, thanks.
I've seen some videos of Diggin in Virginia, and it's just kind of, I'd love to do it, but, I don't have a pulse induction machine, but, do they use a lot of Garrett's out there or no?
Yeah, so there's a fair number of Garrett's. Like I said, it really all depends on the site, Joe. I think that, this previous one, you probably could have gone out and found an artillery shell with a stick with a magnet on the end, because the ones I saw didn't come out of the ground super deep. Now, there were a couple that came out pretty deep. I saw a 20-pound parrot that came out of almost 3 feet. So, but some of them I saw 6 to 8 inches. I saw ground burst. So it really depends on the site, and if they move around to some other counties like they're talking about, it may be worth keeping your eye open and seeing if you can get involved.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it'd be a total different game for me because I don't, I'm up here north, so I'm way up in Wisconsin, so I don't know much about the Civil War stuff. So, but it'd be interesting for me.
Yeah. Well,
it'd be a whole different ball game. That's all I can say.
And sometimes it's just going to be just worth it for the experience, right? Just something new in a different place, and you can always door knock your way home, and I bet you'd find some other cool experiences and places. Just make it a whole package deal.
Tell you what, it's beautiful there. Oh my goodness! I got out there in the morning, and I remember I was on the backside of that hill. I just looked across the valley, and it was beautiful. You took some great photos of it. I took some great panoramic kind of video of it, and it was just like, man, I can't believe I'm here. I felt the same way up in Pound the Ground too, up there in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, here's just another area that I've never been to, part of the country I've never been to. I'm used to Colorado stuff and sights and sounds, which are beautiful, of course. But man, being in Virginia, in that part of Virginia, I thought it was breathtaking, really beautiful.
Well, that's the other cool part of this hobby. I think Joe probably would agree is that I've never dug in Wisconsin, but that's on my 50 places to go and dig. I mean, and I don't know much about Wisconsin, so I think, Joe, we would probably have a lot in common if you came down to Virginia or I came to your neck of the woods.
Sure. I'd have to hook you up with some spots because there's a lot of area here, and it's totally different. That's one thing I always loved about, and I think about this hobby. It's not only the history, because if I went down there, I would just see the history. I'd be just like, oh, look at how historical this, that part of it. But then also every area of the United States, whether it's north, out in Wyoming or Colorado or in Virginia, it all got its particular things to, that you can look for. And, up here it's Native American and the early settlers. West it was that way, but there it's, with the Civil War, East Coast has got the Continental. It's just amazing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it is. And, we talked about that on previous shows. I know Tony and I have talked about that a lot, about being appreciative of where you're at. And I never used to be. And I think I told the story. It was Scott from History Seekers that kind of really was the first one that really kind of woke me up and was talking a lot about how blessed we were, because we were kind of complaining, we're in Colorado, our history. And as a matter of fact, I think I was at Braden Beshert here in our chat. He was kind of talking about that it's hard to relate to what you're talking about, Matt, because his history doesn't go back that far into the Civil War. So it's really hard for him to relate on some of the items and stuff you're talking about. And we're the same here in Colorado, same as Braden. I mean, we only go back to about 1850. I think he gets back to 1840. So not much War 1812 stuff to where he's at, not a lot of the older, colonial stuff as we don't have here. But, we do have the stuff we do have.
Yep.
And it is history. Mm-hmm. And as people were pushing west to expand and manifest destiny and all that stuff that was pushing west, we have the remnants of those people that were some pretty rugged, brave people that gave up everything to come out here to these mountains and try to strike it rich or make their way to California and all the perils that they faced and the unknowns that they faced. It boggles my mind when I think about, could I just do that? Could I pack up my family right now, get in a wagon train and head, thousands of miles into the unknown when things are so desperate? It's just crazy.
Yeah,
I can. Go ahead, man.
No, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, and I just love what DK said because, I always think of the same thing. Can you imagine 17 or 1800s and here in Wisconsin and someone forged their way east and here trying to set a homestead up and it's probably all woods and you got the Native Americans to worry about and, you're setting up your family and you probably got a little bit to do, and maybe your neighbor is miles away and maybe you just got a bargain with them just to trade stuff. It had to have been amazing. And then you had the French here trading with the Indians and the time period must have been just beautiful. I mean, that's all I can think of,
I think the biggest thing that we take away from all of it is never undervalue where you are. I mean, I won't. I'm not gonna lie when I say I'm absolutely blessed to be where I was. I was within 100 feet of George Washington's boyhood home, followed by Lightfoot Harry Lee. There we go. Lee's father, right on the Potomac today. But you can't undervalue where you are, because it all is a pivotal part. Without one part of the French trading with the Indians, or that first Wisconsin settler, to the cowboys who rode through Colorado, to the 49ers, those are all individual groups of people who shaped our nation. And you can't, I wish I could dig here, I could be somewhere else. Like, where you are and the history you have is amazing. I'd love to go be a part of all of that, so it's cool. Digging in Virginia and me digging in Virginia is an amazing experience that I'm privileged and blessed to have that opportunity. But man, let's go across the country. Let's do it all,
Well, if you come to Wisconsin, you certainly are invited, and and I can set you up with some spots, Matt. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in genealogy, I'm into genealogy, and when you do research on your family and stuff, it gives you the opportunity to learn about that. Like when Tony and I went to Oklahoma, right? A lot of my one line of my family went through Oklahoma or in the early days, and we're going out there, and I'm just like, man, I haven't even thought about the history of Oklahoma. Let me start looking into it. And then it's the big land grab and the land rush, and then it's like, oh my gosh, my actually great grandfather, whatever, I don't know how many up there, but he was part of that. It's like, oh my god, and my granduncle's out there living there, and people were living out there and establishing stores and establishing their life. And I'm like, cool, a whole nother, appreciation of another part of history that I knew about my family, but never got to touch it. Now I've touched it. You know what I mean? I've been there, and I kind of know what that area is like and what their history is really surrounding. And I can tie my family to it, which adds something to me. It adds something to, it was amazing. Like, I was so thankful to be able to hunt my great granduncle's homestead there and know that I have that personal connection and what was going on around that time or shortly before that, and same with, when I came out to Culpeper, man, I did so much research on Culpeper and Coles Hill and all that stuff. And I just loved that once I finally got there, I was now able to touch what I had only been able to learn about, what I mean? And it's amazing. We're all nuts for history, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
A bunch of nerds, right?
Well, I was just thinking, and I'll add my 2 cents. I think reality really hit me when Ken and I got to go out with our detecting club and hunt Julesburg, where essentially Dances with Wolves. That's the history of that area right there. And all of a sudden now you're standing in the same fields. You're looking up at the same the peak where some of the Indians came. Those kind of different things. Yeah, we're not talking about continental United States time, but each area has its own history, and for you to be able to stand in that same spot, Matt's never been able to do that. You know what I mean? So we all have our own spot that we need to all be appreciative of. I tell you, it really. It made a big, huge dent in my chest at that point, standing there looking and going, holy crap. Like, this is the history of our nation occurred right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Goosebumps. I got goosebumps.
Yep.
I agree. It's that history.
Yeah. Yeah. Charlie just said in the chat that his wife's family were French Huguenots. And then he found a 1630 Dadler silver dollar coin. I think that's what Dadler silver dollar coin on her farm. So tie that all together.
Amazing.
To find something tied to them arriving and where they were from. Pretty amazing.
Wow, ain't that something?
Yeah, it is something. Yeah. I think it was too. A real quick story. when Loy was on here, right? He was doing more with the show. Remember that time? I don't know if you remember it, Matt, but there was a listener. There was a listener that found a belt plate, and on the back of it was etched Milam. And they started talking, and the place he found it is where Loy's great grandfather was stationed. It's where he serviced during the war, and there's a darn good chance that belonged to his family. And they were able to hook up and get together and exchange that, and because the guy wanted Loy to have it,
Wow.
And I saw pictures of it, and it was just, what a coincidence that a listener of the Relics Radio show, that knows Loy from that, goes out and finds a belt plate from his, ancestor that fought in the war. Crazy. Stories like that are always amazing, right? You hear stuff like that happening.
I think the guy, whoever found it, just gave it to Loy. He wasn't expecting anything in return for it. I just wanted to make sure that you got it. There was no, hey, you want to buy it from me, or it was literally just, to be able to do that. Whew.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, you found that stencil, right, Matt? Like, you had a pretty good experience with that.
Yeah, I did. That's kind of a surreal thing. I located that in a dark water river, and I won't say where I found it, but I didn't know what I found when I found it, and to pull it out of the water, like I was just kind of had my boat like kind of off the side, just kind of hanging out, like, oh, shoot a little video, found a few things on the bottom of the river. And then I pulled this thing out. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got this little thin piece of brass. And it was James Wolfe Bradley. And it was Company D, Harris Light Cavalry. And it was his ID stencil, much like any service member today. They would stencil their either enlisted number or name, whatever, into their clothing. He would have used it to stencil everything from letters to his cartridge box to whatever he needed to identify as his own. And I found it on a 25-foot dark water river. Just minding my own business, so to speak, just kind of bumping around. And
wow.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, we're talking with Matt Howell here. He's with Gone Diggin out of the Richmond area, Virginia. He digs all over Virginia. But more than just digging in the dirt, Matt's actually a diver. And if you've come to know him at all, you know that he talks a lot about this blackwater hunting. And it is like a new frontier, man, I'm telling you. And when you hear his stories about how he searches those dark waters, it is just amazing, because I've seen video of it underwater. They showed some of it on Oak Island, on your appearance in Oak Island, and you really can't see any more than just not even about a foot in front of your face, sometimes less. And you're just feeling and listening and pinpointing and pulling stuff up and throwing it into a sifter basket that's floating on top of the water. And, a lot of times you don't know what you have until you get up to the surface and check. And so for you to, it's hard enough with metal detectors to go out there and find stuff in the middle of these fields, something especially like that. But for you to find that at the bottom of 25 foot of dark water when you didn't know what you had, and it just turns out to be something like that, you can't tell a better story. Like, that is just amazing to me. It's such a personal item,
It is. What's that, Joe?
Oh, go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, I was just going to ask, were you able to return that to the family, or
he kind of lived a tragic life and a very interesting life. So from what I've found is that it looks like he had daughters that by 1880 were orphans. And I don't know if that was because his wife passed away or what the case is. And then his his pension said something about whether he was it had very weird wording as to actually what happened to him. And then he is buried in Burlington, Connecticut, which is on my high list of places to go. But he doesn't have one, but he has 2 tombstones.
Right.
Wow.
I helped you do some research on that, Matt, and wasn't that weird? He had 2 tombstones.
Yeah, and his pension said invalid, but there's questions to, was he an invalid or was it invalid?
Right. Right. I thought it was invalid.
That's like taking it home. I mean, you're just,
Yeah. And here's what I love. This is exactly, maybe it's off our show topic tonight, but this is exactly why I love those personal items like that. Right.
Sure.
Both Matt and I know so much about Bradley,
we do,
that it's almost like it's family, like we know so much, much more than we did before he found that item. But you find an item like that and you go into this whole thing. A lady in my treasure hunting club found a store token for a merchant in Kansas. And she asked me to help her do some research on it. Man, I ended up finding everything there was to know about that. I found newspaper articles. His whole family were retailers and different things. And it was just amazing how much, I found out about tragedies that happened in their family. And I just so much information. And I love learning, especially when it's to an item that we can touch and that we just never knew about before. And something like that ID badge stencil was really great, and I appreciate allowing me to be part of that and kind of look into that, because I'd learned about him too, and it was wonderful. The mystery of the double tombstone and stuff, that was
and 2 different death dates.
Yeah, 2 different death dates. Like, they rarely got those wrong, but they did, yeah.
Wow.
He died, and then he came back, and he died again.
Lazarus.
Ohio Relic Hunter in the chat says, "You think you're confused about those 2 tombstones? I bet the guy buried there is beside himself." See?
There you go, Bill.
Bunch of comedians out there.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few.
Amazing story, though. Amazing story.
Yeah.
Earlier, Bill said that when I talk about genealogy, he says he dreams of genealogy.
Yes, genealogy.
Genial.
He dreams of genealogy.
That's reaching. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
That's
He
reaching.
needed a rim shot after that. But
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, and I'll see you guys in Colorado.
Are you going to make it? Oh, excellent.
I got it sent in, but I didn't get an email back saying that they got my stuff, so I don't know yet. But.
We better get
I'll
on
check
that.
into it.
Yeah.
I'll check into it for you. I know that Nancy, the one that receives all that stuff, she said, "Man, we're getting a lot of people in that we haven't seen before. A lot of new people." And I was like, "Cool." I go, I hope friend Joe can get in there and stuff, and she didn't get back to me on that, but I'll double check and I'll let you know if I'm able to find your stuff. I know that they'll send out another message kind of saying, hey, this is kind of the final thing. Like we just recently kind of arranged some lunch that y'all can buy up there if you're a barbecue lunch, if you guys want to buy it, and that wasn't listed on anything yet. But so we're still putting details together, and then once we get it all totally finalized, because we don't want to say anything wrong, then we'll send out another email to everybody. Yeah. So good, man. I'm looking forward to meeting you and getting together with you.
Yeah.
Here in Colorado.
Yeah. See you guys up there. That'll be fun.
Awesome.
All right, buddy. Have a good night.
Yep. Thanks.
Good night, Joe.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I know we're coming down to the end, and we truly appreciate you being with us tonight, Matt. To send it off, I know last time you were with us, you talked about a hunt that you're going to kind of try and put together. Is that in the works still, or?
So we did a small group hunt, and I think that's where I'm gonna probably find myself most favorable. We've got a couple places where we have feelers out for, but I've got a really good prospect for a charity hunt. A lot of people, and the more I've dove into the idea of organized relic hunting, the more I've thought about how we can benefit and impact communities that we would have these events in. So I think we're going to look forward to doing a charity hunt on the Eastern Shore of Virginia in the fall of this year or the spring of the following. A camp cookout kind of style event. And if anybody's ever hunted on the Eastern Shore of Virginia, it is a magical, magical place with everything from the earliest colonial settlers who stopped off before they went to Jamestown to the American Civil War, all the way through the early 1900s. Really cool stuff. But we're going to do something to benefit kind of underfunded school systems in that local region, and hopefully expand on that in the next couple of years, whether that's on the Eastern Shore or whether that's anywhere else in Virginia or other places that'll have us. And then do some other small groups throughout the year, maybe do some fossil hunts and just, get out and explore and do it with like-minded folks who give them the opportunity that they might not normally have.
What's the best way to keep up on info that's coming out about that stuff? Facebook?
Oh, man. Yeah, Facebook. You can always go check out GoneDiggin.net on the internet. We have an about section or an upcoming section that we will be updating. I have Facebook, YouTube. We're always producing content for YouTube. And anywhere else you may find Gone Diggin, Instagram, or just search us. We're there somewhere.
Yeah, we have all the links to Matt's stuff right down below in the description of this podcast. How can they get involved with Diggin in Virginia? They got a website over there, Diggin in Virginia?
You go check diggininvirginia.com. They have a kind of a website that'll give you all the updates where you need to sign up, all that stuff. And then they also have a very popular Facebook group that shares a lot of different finds when they are not having an event. So great organization. Go check them out on Facebook or the internet.
There you go. We got links to that posted into the chat as well. Thank you, Tony.
Yep.
And did I hear you? Was it you that was feeling people out about what they would think about maybe a bottle hunt?
Yeah. I'm working on a collab with I don't want to give that all away, but we're working on possibly purchasing a really cool piece of property that would have a town dump on it. So we would do small group bottle digging as well.
Wow.
2 days at a time, have an excavator, have all the tools.
Very interesting.
Yeah, not having.
When I saw that, you were just kind of feeling it out. I mean, that's where you're at right now. You're just kind of feeling it out, and this and that. I was like, "Ooh, interesting, man! I bet you're going to get a lot of interest in that."
Yeah.
And I think when this we're gonna put all the periods in the right spot before we go live with it or let people know. But I think when folks know, I think it's gonna be something fun. I've gone and done it, and I had a blast doing it, so I think other people enjoy it as well. Just kind of something to add to something a little different, right? Whether it's looking for shark's teeth or Native American artifacts, but like everybody likes digging bottles. We just don't have those places to go.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to find a place here in town. They used to have a bottle manufacturing company here years ago in the early years, and I'm trying to. It's got to be by the river somewhere, but I'm still searching. And I got involved with the local museum here as a board member, and just trying to find more information about stuff like that. Figure if I got on the inside, people would release the good stuff to me.
Ken's back door in all the local museums.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, he's working
Absolutely. Totally working it. Yeah, I'm an officer. I'm a secretary now. I got voluntold to be the secretary of this board, but crazy. Hey Matt, you've been great guest, man. I appreciate you giving us your time. You're always great and gracious and generous of your time to come on and talk to us. And always, like you said, there's so many topics. We could have different shows on different stuff, right? There's so many different ways we could go with this, but I appreciate you giving us your time tonight. Talk about digging in Virginia for sure.
No, I appreciate you guys. You guys are the best in the business, and I don't say that because I like both of you, which I do. But you guys do a great show every night, and thank you guys for inviting me each and every time I get to come on.
Yeah, cool. Tony?
Yeah, just want to thank Matt as always, man. And then just mention to everybody out there that's either live or listening on the replay, don't miss next week. I'm telling you guys, you're not going to want to miss it with Dila coming on, giving away a legend and some other stuff too coming up with that. So don't want to miss that one for sure. But great show, Matt. Appreciate it. We'll definitely be talking.
Yep. Any last words from you, Matt?
No, thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to come hang out with you guys and anybody in the chat or who's listening. I'd love to come dig in the field or just hang out. It's a good time.
Yeah, perfect. Hang on, we'll say our goodbyes off the air real quick. Yeah, everyone, thanks for listening to another Relics Radio here. Like Tony was saying, make sure you're going to pay attention to all the different social medias as we talk about Deluxe appearance next week and the giveaway happening. Yeah, who wouldn't like to win a legend, right? That's a great machine. I know I was swinging it in England, having a blast with it. I've been really enjoying it. Great machine. So, make sure you're tuning in next Thursday night live and look out for different announcements coming, which will probably start tomorrow. I'm going to put out some stuff tomorrow about the appearance next Thursday. So everyone have yourself a great night. If you get out and go dig this weekend, make sure you go find the good stuff. Be safe. Take care of yourself out there. Stay healthy. And we're going to see you next Thursday for a great show. All right, let's get out of here, Tony.